Here's something nobody tells you before you retire. The moment you stop working, your money becomes fragile in a way it never was while you were saving it. Not because you suddenly become reckless, not because the market crashes, but because retirement completely changes the rules of how your money behaves, and most people walk into that change completely unprepared for it. The first 5 years of retirement are the most financially dangerous period of your entire life, and the people who go broke in retirement, and more do than you'd think, almost always trace it back to decisions made or missed in that narrow window. Today, we're going to talk about exactly what goes wrong, why it goes wrong, and what you can do right now to make sure it doesn't happen to you. The biggest reason retirees run out of money in the first 5 years has a name. It's called sequence of returns risk. And if you've never heard that phrase before, pay close attention, because understanding it could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars to you. Here's how it works. When you're saving for retirement, the order of your investment returns doesn't matter much. Whether the market goes up first and then down, or down first and then up, your ending balance over a long period comes out roughly the same. The math is forgiving because you're adding money, not taking it out. Retirement flips that entirely. The moment you start withdrawing from your portfolio, the order of returns matters enormously. If you retire into a strong market, your early withdrawals come out of a growing account. The remaining balance keeps compounding, you're in good shape. But if you retire right before a significant market downturn and you have no way of knowing when that will happen, something very different occurs. You're now selling investments at low prices to cover your living expenses. Your portfolio shrinks from both the losses and the withdrawals at the same time. And the money you pulled out during those down years isn't there to recover when the market bounces back. That permanent impairment, that hole in your portfolio from selling low while spending simultaneously, is what sequence of returns risk actually means, and it can permanently derail a retirement that looked perfectly funded on paper. The 2000 dot-com crash and the 2008 financial crisis both created waves of early retirees who had done everything right, saved diligently, invested sensibly, and still found themselves in serious trouble within the first 5 years, simply because of when they retired. The second major reason retirees go broke early is one that almost nobody talks about honestly. Spending doesn't drop in early retirement the way most people expect it to. There's a widely held assumption that retirement is cheaper than working life, and in the long run, for many people, that's true. Healthcare costs rise, but commuting disappears. Work clothes go away, lunches out become rarer. The math works over time. But in the first 5 years, spending often goes up, not down. Think about what early retirement actually looks like. You finally have the time to travel, so you travel. You fix up the house you've been ignoring for 30 years. You help your kids or grandkids financially because you finally can. You eat out more because you're home and bored. You pick up hobbies that cost money. The freedom of retirement is real, and it comes with a price tag that most retirement calculators completely ignore. Research consistently shows that spending in the first decade of retirement is significantly higher than spending in the second or third decade. Retirees are healthiest and most active in those early years. They move more, they do more, they spend more, which means the financial pressure is highest precisely when the sequence of returns risk is also highest. Both problems hit at exactly the same time. Most financial plans model retirement spending as a flat line. Real retirement spending looks more like a wave, high in the early years, lower in the middle, and then higher again in the final years when healthcare dominates. Planning for a flat line when the reality is a wave is one of the most common and costly planning errors people make. So what actually works? What separates the people who sail through early retirement from the ones who run into serious trouble? The single most effective strategy is something called a cash buffer. The idea is straightforward. Before you retire, you set aside 1 to 3 years of living expenses in cash or very short-term stable assets, a high-yield savings account, short-term treasury bonds, something that doesn't go down when the market does. When the market drops in your early retirement years, you don't touch your investment portfolio. You live off the cash buffer instead. You give your investments time to recover, and when the market comes back, which historically it always has, you refill the buffer and repeat. This one strategy eliminates the core of sequence of returns risk because the damage only happens when you're forced to sell investments at depressed prices. If you never have to do that, the risk largely disappears. The second strategy is building a realistic first 5-year budget before you retire, not an average retirement budget, but a specific early retirement budget that accounts for higher spending, travel plans, home projects, family support before Medicare kicks in at 65. Price all of it honestly, then stress test it. Ask yourself, if my portfolio dropped 30% in year 2, could I still cover my expenses without panic selling? If the answer is no, you either need more in the buffer or you need to revisit the retirement date. The third strategy is Social Security timing, which we covered in depth in our last video, but it connects here too. If you can delay claiming Social Security, you give yourself a guaranteed income floor that grows over time and doesn't go down when markets crash. That floor changes everything about how much pressure your investment portfolio is under in those fragile early years. Here is what I want you to take away from this. Going broke in retirement is almost never the result of one catastrophic decision. It's usually the result of 3 or 4 smaller miscalculations that compound on each other in the worst possible timing. Too little in stable assets, a market downturn in year 2, spending that ran higher than planned, and Social Security claimed too early. None of those individually would have been fatal. Together, in those first 5 years, they can be. The good news is that all of these risks are knowable in advance. Unlike most things in life, the financial dangers of early retirement aren't mysterious. They're well documented, well understood, and very specifically preventable if you do the preparation before you need it. You don't have to predict the market. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to build a retirement structure that can survive a bad first 5 years, because sooner or later, for somebody, those bad 5 years will come. The ones who are fine are simply the ones who are ready for it. We'll see you in the next one.